We're officially on part 10 of our Resident Evil recap, following the mostly non-canon but also surprisingly canon events of Resident Evil: The Umbrella Chronicles. Today we'll be taking a closer look at the Darkside Chronicles, another on-rails light gun game which takes place in 2002. It comprises 4 scenarios, but 2 of them are very much like the filler from Umbrella Chronicles. Now before we begin, this video is based on our understanding of Resident Evil: The Darkside Chronicles, story and lore, and reflects our interpretation of its events as a refresher before Resident Evil Requiem. As always, we recommend that you make your own informed call by looking into the game yourself and ensuring that it matches your expectations, standards, and personal values. Memories of a Lost City and Game of Oblivion provide a condensed overview of the stories from Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica. The latter is somewhat interesting because we actually see Alexander Ashford, son of Edward Ashford, who is one of the founders of Umbrella Corporation. Otherwise, they serve as little more than flashbacks for the main narrative, which is Operation Javier. And to say it's important for many reasons, well, that would be an understatement. Operation Javier. This operation focuses on Leon S. Kennedy, who would join the anti-Umbrella pursuit and investigation team under the US government's STRATCOM to ensure Sherry's safety. While this meant he couldn't tell the world about Umbrella and the truth behind Raccoon City's outbreak because it would expose the government's deals with the corporation, Leon would venture forth to destroy what remains. In that 4-year interval, he would undergo extensive training and undertake various missions. However, it wasn't until 2002 that he received his biggest yet, locating Javier Hidalgo, a cartel leader in Amparo, South America. He seemingly has been in touch with the Umbrella Corporation, and who knows what mayhem that may unleash. Joining Leon in this mission is Jack Krauser, a soldier for the United States Special Operations Command and part-time mercenary, but none of his experience could prepare them for what awaited. After meeting up with Leon, sans their guide, they find a nearby village, Mixcoatl, with zombies everywhere and no survivors, save for the guide who's quickly disposed of by a massive bioorganic creature. After the guide tells them of a girl who brought disaster to the village, the two continue, dispatching any threats and happening upon her in an abandoned building. However, the same BOW from before appears. Leon manages to deal significant damage to the creature, which then escapes, and subsequently learns that the character in question is Manuela. She helps as their new guide, while Leon explains his past to Krauser, and the experiences he had fighting against Umbrella. Eventually they arrive at a dam and must contend with Javier himself. As he releases more bioweapons to fight against Leon and Krauser, the two become separated from Manuela, though she would later escape. They subsequently learned that she's Javier's daughter. Not only that, she's been infected with the T. Veronica virus, the same created by Alexander Ashford in Code Veronica. The big revelation. It's thus revealed that Hilda, Javier's wife, was afflicted with an illness local to the region with no cure. However, thanks to his extensive wealth, Javier managed to procure Umbrella's T virus and used it on his wife. While her disease was eradicated, she transformed into the massive BOW seen at the start of this mission and seemingly lost all reason. We say seemingly because she won't attack her daughter or Javier. Mortified but unable to put his wife out of her misery, he kept her confined at his estate. Despite the horrifying consequences, he still dipped into the black market, using infected members of his cartel as muscle. Things took another turn several years later when Manuela was next to suffer the same illness as her mother. This time Javier used the T. Veronica virus, and once again, it worked. But to ensure that she did not transform, he would take to harvesting organs from the inhabitants of Mixcoatl. The revelation horrified Manuela, and she would flee her estate, causing Javier to lose it. Back to the present, Leon and Krauser find themselves in a battle against a mutated Hilda. Pulling out all of the stops, and with some help from Manuela, whose singing subdued her mother, they manage to take Hilda down. It comes at a price, however, as Krauser's arm is severely injured. As Manuela bids farewell to her mother, the group nonetheless carries on, despite Javier remaining at large. The battle against Javier. Meanwhile, with no other choice and desperate to reclaim his daughter, Javier fuses with a Veronica plant, turning into the V-complex. Due to its unstable nature, it presented perhaps the biggest threat to the region, which meant Leon and Krauser had to destroy it. While the two succeeded in destroying several of its limbs, it wasn't enough. It was Manuela who realized that she could inflict some serious damage in the most unorthodox way possible, with her blood, which was flammable. The problem is, she would eventually bleed out and die if she continued the fight. As a result, Javier regains momentary control of his senses and incites Leon to kill him. Our man obliges and takes him out, once and for all. As the rescue chopper arrives, Manuela is taken into custody by the US government. Believing she should have died with her father, Leon tells her to continue living, especially for the sake of the other people who lost their lives. Krauser would end up discharged due to his injury, and several months later, he passed away due to an accident. Or at least, that's what Leon heard. The truth. Well, the truth is that he faked his death. Upon completing Operation Javier, a new bonus scenario called Darkness Falls is available, offering Krauser's perspective throughout the mission. As he learns more about Leon's history, especially with the Raccoon City destruction incident, he begins to respect him more. However, Krauser also felt some jealousy over the fact that he's working directly under US President Graham. While keen to succeed and prove himself, he also becomes more enamored by the T. Veronica virus. After getting injured, Krauser begins to feel even more resentful of Leon. Seeing the power of the V-complex, he believes it's the source for becoming stronger. As Leon consoles Manuela, Krauser smiles back, but his thoughts reveal something else entirely, as he calls his partner cruel for his words. Quote, "There's nothing left to say. For you and I, Leon, we're merely different sides of the same coin." After being discharged for his injury, Krauser effectively abandons his military life and seeks out the one person he believes can help him, Albert Wesker. Interestingly, at the end of Darkness Falls, as he ponders whether he could help Krauser regain his strength, it's revealed that Wesker is actually watching the battle against the V-complex from a distance. As its corpse burns up, he dons his signature shades and walks away. And that concludes all of the canon events of Resident Evil: The Darkside Chronicles. Alongside giving us a closer look at the mission that seemingly elevated Leon up the ranks, so much so that he was solely entrusted with rescuing President Graham's daughter on his own, it also revealed Krauser's hidden backstory, why he was hostile towards Leon, how he came to work for Wesker, and ultimately his mentality. All of it began with the goal of seeking out power, ultimately setting a path towards his own ruin. But that's a story for another time, which we'll delve into with part 11 of our series, outlining the events of RE4 Remake.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.